Would it be crazy to say that the very first year that they manufacture this vehicle, they can make at least 100,000 in production in
Oh,
the first year?
not crazy at all.
I'm like, so you want me to sell this on the low and buy NVIDIA on the high?
Yeah, that's a bold strategy. I believe my investment will outperform the market over a 10-year horizon. All those other things are just icing on the cake. And it turns out there's some icing on that cake.
Mexico has been announced. How long do you think this will take?
The land is not level. It needs to be made level first.
So what do you think 2024 will be? Like what's the production numbers for 2024?
So,
Ladies and gentlemen, today I got a very interesting guest, very popular guest. He's on every single Tesla podcast channel on YouTube and on X as well. And I'm very happy to have him on this channel as well. Everyone, welcome FutureAZA, formerly My Tesla Weekend. Hi, Brian. Thank you for coming.
I'm delighted to be here. So excited. It's been too long since we've been trying to get this scheduled, and here we are.
Here we are. Very excited, very happy. Thank you so much for coming on. And first question, man, why did you change your name from My Tesla Weekend to FutureAZA?
FutureAZA. So
FutureAZA.
so the thing with FutureAZA was My Tesla Weekend, it started as a channel that I only did on the weekend. And quickly grew beyond that because YouTube will punish you if you don't publish often enough. So all of a sudden, weekend didn't make sense. And having Tesla in the name caused some difficulty in getting guests. I was at it for about 6 months, maybe a year, when Rob Maurer was a guest on a show about podcasting. And he said his biggest regret was putting Tesla in the name of the channel because it meant that a lot of people wouldn't talk to him. And if they won't talk to Rob Maurer, who famously is so balanced, so good, and so much bigger, I wouldn't stand a chance. And that's happened. I've seen I would talk to battery experts from other companies, and they'd say, boy, I don't know how this is going to be framed. I'm not sure I want to participate. That makes it tough. But the bigger problem was I didn't have any universal branding. On every platform, I had a different handle. So I needed a word that was short, easy enough to remember, and not already taken anyway. And so FutureAZA was what it was. I went to a domain name generator where you put in keywords, and I spent about 4 hours spinning different keywords, technology, all kinds of things I could think of. And a lot of people say, oh, you should have just gone, My EV Weekend. It's like, well, that still has my and weekend in it for no reason. And there are other channels with names that are very similar to that already. So I wanted something that was just a clean slate. It can be whatever you want it to be. And I was looking at my videos from the last year, and out of the top 10, only something like 2 or 3 of them were about Tesla cars. Some of them were about bots or Dojo, but some of them were about other brands completely. Things like why Lucid is in so much hot water. Now that is outside of Tesla, but it is relevant to Tesla. Yes. And I think all of these things are. So it was a kind of a business decision. And I did lose about 5% of my paid supporters, but I picked up a different 5% of paid supporters. And it's about a wash, and it's, a rebrand can be painful, but sometimes you just got to do it.
Yeah, indeed. And everyone, go ahead. Go subscribe to FutureAZA. I'm a subscriber. He does a lot of interesting stuff with EVs, very knowledgeable, and he is a go-to guy. He's been featured on so many channels. He's been on the Herbert Show. He's been on the Randy Kirk Show, and so many other YouTube channels that do talk about EVs and Tesla and all that kind of stuff. So very interesting, very knowledgeable. My go-to guy when I want to watch some informative stuff on Tesla is Brian FutureAZA. Go and subscribe to him, guys, on X and on YouTube. That's awesome. FutureAZA is a very interesting name. It's about the future. The future is, Tesla, obviously, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video and such. So you are very knowledgeable in the Gigafactory space. I've seen you in other channels talking about the Gigafactories and all that kind of stuff. So I want to go factory by factory and getting some thoughts on just picking your brain on what's going on in those Gigafactories.
I study the factories more closely than I think anybody. There are people who study individual factories more than me, and I am in constant contact with them to get more information. So that is definitely my strong suit.
Yeah, and that's going to be very helpful for us Tesla bulls who are invested in for the long term, because this will really kill some FUD if you have any. And first one that I want to ask is the Gigafactory, the construction of it. So with Berlin, as you know, Berlin, the bureaucracies there is a bit interesting. I think they have 5 phases. They only done 1 out of 5. What's going on there? Why is it so slow? Like for building the second phases and the extensions and all that.
Sure. So the first delay on the second phase is they weren't ready for it yet. We believe that the second phase will be for compact model. We know that's not ready for deployment. So that was the delay. They did go ahead and get the trees cleared when they had a permit to do so that issue could be settled. So that couldn't come back and bite them later. The thing they've done most recently is they are required to do a non-binding community poll of the people who live in the area. Now, there's only a few thousand people who live in the area. It's an industrial area. And of those 5,000 people, 70% showed up to vote. And of those 70%, the majority said no expansion. Because these aren't the people that work there. Those people don't generally live in that little tiny area. And because otherwise the population would double. So the people voting on it aren't the people really affected by it. And if you look at it from the air, you can see if it grows to the full anticipated size, it still wouldn't be near any houses. It would just be in their neighborhood. And I guess some people are traditionalists or old-fashioned, or maybe they prefer to support German brands rather than actual German jobs. But these are German jobs. There's been some hesitation there. So it looks like to me that they could do phase 2 and or 3 without much pushback. The vote is non-binding, but there's plans to expand onto more land that they don't have yet. Ooh. And that is where they could face an obstacle, and that would be for loading and logistics. And so they may have to scale back that ambition, and it's entirely possible that they would just need a different location, which would be very unfortunate for Germany's economy, because this is going to be a powerhouse building cajillions of dollars worth of vehicles. Germany will be getting paid revenue on every sale in the form of taxes, and these can be built anywhere in the EU. We've seen BYDs looking to build a factory in Hungary because they can import throughout Europe without any import tariffs. So I think it'd be a crazy idea for them to slow down. So far, it hasn't actually been slowed because Tesla hasn't actually tried to build that phase yet, but we're getting real close to time.
Wow. So you believe that they're going to be expanding further from the 5 phases that they have in Berlin?
No. So the 5 phases includes that additional land.
That sucks. Yeah, that sucks.
Only phase 2, 3, and 4. 2 and 3 or 2, 3, and 4 use the existing land, and then there's another phase that would be outside of it.
Wow, no, that's very inconvenient. Darn.
Yes.
Let's say all these 5 phases has been built. What is the max capacity of units can they make if it's just the 3 and the Y?
Well, so there is a non-zero chance that they would build a Model 3 factory there. It was not part of the recent plans, but with the Model 3 being refreshed, and the possibility of new import tariffs on Chinese-built cars, it could very easily make sense to build a Model 3 factory right there. I don't think that would go into the new part of the building. I think it would go into the existing part of the building. There's room for multiple lines in there, and it would make sense to keep them under one roof like they do in China and like they do in Fremont. I think the expansion would just be for the compact. So for the main factory, we know Shanghai's output is about 1 million a year. This factory is 60% the size, so 600,000 units would be pretty easy. I think, though, honestly, it would be closer to 1 million because there are new efficiencies that have been understood since then, and the cubic space of Giga Berlin is bigger than the cubic space of Shanghai. Shanghai's phase 1 was just the Model 3, and it was all on one very short floor. 15-foot ceilings, maybe 20-foot, where this has, 70, 80-foot ceilings, and Tesla famously makes good use of their vertical space. So I think just the building that we see now could build Ys and or 3s at a rate between 600,000 and 1 million pretty easily. And the expansion for the compact, well, that's a matter of some debate, but I think the minimum on that would be 2 million.
Wow. That's insane. That's insane. Now, what's interesting here is Giga Shanghai is that they have a very small gigafactory compared to the other ones. and they're doing 1 million units, as you mentioned.
Well, in terms of square footage, it is a 9 million square foot facility, so it is still very big. But the land is what's small.
I think there was a picture on X that showed all the gigafactories in the land, and it showed how small Giga Shanghai was, and it amazed me, and I'm like, that small thing compared. I mean, it's big, but compared to the other big spaces and lands, is pushing out 1 million units annually. I was blown back by it. I'm just like, if they're doing so good in Shanghai, why aren't they making another factory in Shanghai, like Giga Shanghai too?
And we believe they will. I believe they will. We know they're looking to build the Megapack factory. They've already announced it. They've already broken ground. We just don't know the location. Very sneaky. They don't want drone flights tracking their every move like we've done so many times in the past. But I have no doubt they will build another car factory for the compact in China, in part because they want to sell. They need to get into that market. They need to move down from the 35,000 kind of range. There are a lot of very compelling EVs that are remarkably good in the $15,000 to $20,000 range in China. Anybody would rather spend the extra 5,000 if Tesla has a compact that's compelling, because Tesla only makes compelling cars.
By miles. And I tell this to everybody, because there's a lot of people out there who are very skeptical when the compact car comes out, that I'm like, look, the compact car doesn't need to be $10,000. And if it was a $10,000 Tesla, oh my goodness. Imagine the scale and the demand on that. But if they can get an affordable vehicle out there, as a consumer, Tesla has a $20,000 to $25,000 vehicle. Why am I going to get a BYD for $15,000, which isn't that reliable? And it's a no-brainer. Yeah, that was a very good point. So that's Giga Shanghai. Can't wait for that. Fremont, it looks like it's been maxed out. It looks like they're not expanding yet. If anything, they're probably going to reshuffle how they do things, because according to Elon, it's a pain in the arse for them to move things in that factory. But it looks like it's been maxed out, and there hasn't been any talks of Fremont expanding even further. What's your thoughts on those?
So I'm going to see Fremont in person on March 19th. I managed to secure a tour using my referral points. Thank you, everybody who used my referral credits or my referral link. So I will have more perspective then, but I do know a lot from watching it from the sky. When it was built as the NUMMI factory back in the 80s, I think it was when it was built, it was the most efficient, amazing factory in the world. But those times have changed, and we've learned some lessons since then. Fremont could increase their output. They could add some more shifts. There's S and X production could increase, or they could discontinue those and make something else. What they'd need to do, because you can't change the wheel on your car while you're still in motion, what they would need to do is decide, we're getting enough production out of the Model Y in Texas. We can take the line down, demolish all those buildings, and do a multi-phase rebuild. And that's what I've been expecting for a couple years now, is that at some point they'll be able to do that. If Texas was to fully ramp Model Y production, they could take down the Model Y lines in Fremont and retool and maybe build something completely different there. Maybe they move to a van or some other form factor that the market needs. They are pretty maxed out. Just like Shanghai, they are out of land. There's no more places to put stuff. And one thing we did see recently was they put in foundations for an additional Giga press, a Giga casting machine. And then right as they finished it, they just paved it over and used it as parking. So underneath this little parking patch next to the giant casting machines is a buried foundation for another casting machine. Yeah. So at some point they will move to that. But the Fremont built cars, aren't using as many Giga castings as they are in other factories. And that's an efficiency that they've really got to get put in place, but it's just really hard to do when you're in motion.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's interesting. Seeing if we can see that happen with Texas ramping and then Fremont doing it, and you going to Fremont. So I saw that on X that you're going to Fremont, and I'm like, all right, this is gonna be nice. So I'm looking forward to that video to see what your thoughts are and what's going to happen. So that is really looking forward to that. Mexico has been announced that, it's been announced since last year. Now breaking ground is apparently starting on 3rd of March. Don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but something's going to happen on the 3rd of March. How long do you think this will take?
That is a very good question. So the first thing on the announcement I'll point out is that was the local minister, local politician speaking, not Tesla. Yeah. So that And they have made announcements in the past. So I'm still cautiously optimistic that this is the real announcement and not another head fake. How long will it take? So there was a question on that on X yesterday that I addressed where someone said, I think it'll be 12 months. Tom Ju said he wants it to be faster than Shanghai. I don't think they can go faster than Shanghai. I think 12 months. And my answer to that is there is a lot of grading work that needs to be done. The land is not level. It needs to be made level first. And this is hard packed dirt and rocks. This is a rocky area. It's going to be more work to get it flat than it was even in Texas, where they had to move mountains and fill valleys to get it back to level. But that was all sand. That's very easy to move. So this, I think there could be 3 to 6 months of grading and then 12 to 15 months of construction. I'm looking at right now the end of 25 for the earliest production.
In line with what Elon is saying with but no, he was just talking about the compact car that could be made in Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, the Texas one could be made in late 24, early 25. And the big reason there, a lot of people have said, well, Mexico's permits, it's all red tape, they're goofing it up. It's not. That's not the issue. Permits move. They are motivated to make Tesla happy. They are trying to make this they're trying to expand their industrial hub out into the valley, and this is how you do it. No, the problem was, and we heard on, not this earnings call, but the previous one, that the plans, or no, I guess it was this earnings call, that the plans were almost finished. Well, you can't get permits until your plans are submitted, let alone finished. So they had to get that done first, and it wasn't done because the factory is designed around the production of the car. So you have to get the car finished, then you have to figure out the design for the manufacturing, then you design the factory, then you submit your permit. And the reason they're starting in Texas is because it's easier to have all your engineers are already in Texas. Getting them to move for a year or two is a big, big ask, and it would make it more difficult. You certainly couldn't move all of them. It'd be too many people. It just wouldn't, it's too much work. So they're going to design it in Texas, perfect it in Texas, and then replicate it into Mexico. And this is not new. My buddy was an engineer at Ford. When they put their factory in Mexico, they would design everything in Michigan, perfect it, and then ship it down. So to be replicated. Even things like the peg board for the wiring harness would be made in Detroit and then shipped to Mexico.
So you're saying end of 2025. Troy tests like he's saying January of 2026. So it looks like everyone is expecting around that time frame. So that's interesting. Do you think there's going to be bots? Do you think the bots will be part of the personnel in Gigafactory Mexico?
I can't see them being more than 1% of the workforce because time is of the essence, and you can't, just because a bot can work more hours or you can put more bots in there, you don't always have the space for them, and time is too critical. There are things where if you were the supervisor watching it, you'd want to scream, get out of the way and just let me do it. And that's not what the bots are for. If a bot is half the speed of a human, it doesn't mean you can use 2 of them to get up to speed. Just like you can't get 9 mothers pregnant to have a baby in 1 month. It doesn't work that way. So it's going to have to average out. So I don't believe that. The good news is these bots are designed to work in human spaces. You don't have to design the factory around the bots. All they would probably need is charging stations here and there, which would be the sort of thing you could easily add to any factory. So that's good news, because unlike the big industrial robots where you absolutely have to plan where they're going to be, these, you could design it for humans, and when the bot's ready, put it into each role as it makes sense. And then there are some things you could do where then in certain areas you're able to start disengaging safety protocols because there are no humans. Just move the safety fence all the way out to the door. And then turn the lights off, because they don't need lights. There are already solar panel factories where the lights are off because everything inside is automated. And materials go on one side and solar panels come out the other.
That's interesting. I'm looking forward to see how Giga Mexico is going to be in terms of like personnel and just the whole factory and industry, all that, because that's going to be state of the art, and it's going to be a huge moment. So
yes, there are plenty of jobs I think Optimus could do. Maybe not today, but maybe today. Things like, there was the example of the worker in Shanghai whose job it is to just take metal blanks and pop them over here. Grab them, pop them over here. And then one time he stepped past the line and the machine shut off. He had to step out, reset it, all that. That job looks like the sort of thing Optimus could do today. So that position could be filled, but I don't know if more than 1% of the jobs could be filled. And there are plenty of jobs that can't be, because if anything that would involve, crawling, I don't think the bot is well suited for crawling yet, but it could be. And any of the janitorial could be handled by bots. Any of the pushing of wheelie carts around could be handled by bots. So those, I need this tool in this workstation. Perfect job for a bot. We've got 5 minutes. He'll be there in plenty of time. So those could be done right out of the gate. I just don't know if they will.
Okay, no, that's interesting. Really looking forward to that. Those are some good, interesting thoughts. We skipped over Texas. How could I miss Texas? My question is for Giga Texas. I don't know. But I skipped over Texas. That thing is slow. Okay, the Cybertruck is ramping up nicely. But why is it that, it's a massive factory. At the moment, it's the biggest car manufacturer plant in the world. I have a feeling that this thing is slow. The Model Y production is very slow. And I don't know what's going on there. Like that part, I'm like, it's a massive factory. I think I heard that if it's fully ramped, they can make 2 million Model Ys. I'm like, okay, that's a massive factory. But it's so slow.
So I don't think it could make 2 million Model Ys. I think it could do 1 million. In terms of square footage, it is the same size as Shanghai if you include all of Shanghai's outbuildings. Texas has a couple additional buildings that give it some more space, but those are for things that 2 of the 3 buildings, the cathode building and the die shop, are for things that they don't have on site in Shanghai anyhow. The first part of slow, the construction wasn't slow. It is as big as both phases of Shanghai, but took less time to build than both phases combined. So the pace was very good, even if you consider that they spent months getting it back to level before they could start building. In terms of production, why is it not fully ramped? And the answer is that would be too many cars. They're not running full shifts, full lines, because if they did, they would have thousands, certainly thousands a week, but maybe even thousands a day pouring out that don't have a buyer waiting. And if you just want to fill lots with unsold cars like Lucid, you could do that, but they need to wait for the cost of goods to drop enough that they can justify that, which is why I think that they would be maybe considering shutting the line in Fremont as this line ramps, so that they would have the space in Fremont to build something different. The other thing worth considering is, as big as the factory is, it's not all dedicated for the Model Y. The Cybertruck is in there with extra space for more Cybertruck lines. And it sounded like some of the people who got to do the tour for the Cybertruck delivery event saw what they perceived to be a new line for something else. And they couldn't tell if it was a bot or if it was a vehicle. And we don't know if they're correct, because Tesla controls those events in such a way that anything that would have told them definitively was obscure. They do that on purpose. It's like when Berlin had their open house, they had their new fancy colors on display, but it was way down so far you had to do maximum zoom on your phone and get a grainy picture of it. And that was their reveal. That was absolutely on purpose. There's no way that was an accident. So I think that was a tease to give some idea that something else is coming. But the real answer is, if you were making 2 million Model Ys a year out of that factory, who would buy them? That's too many cars.
I guess at the moment as well, and the total TAM for a vehicle that's like 40 or 50,000 after incentives as well, I guess is not that high for it. And at the moment with high interest rates, I guess that's why they're having a little bit of a break on that as well, which makes sense.
For sure.
Definitely makes sense.
If you were to add another million of output, that would roughly double global Model Y sales. Million. I mean, it'd be impressive, but I think the market is approaching it. When you're already number one, there's only so much higher you can go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the Easter eggs are awesome. And Tesla does this on all of their things. That there's Easter eggs. You just gotta look deep enough and zoom in, as you said, grainy images, all that kind of stuff. If the rumors are true, if there's a new lineup in the Texas Gigafactory, I wouldn't doubt it could be maybe the minivan, because they did say they do want to make something that's like a minivan kind of thing.
I think there could be several vehicles that are the compact, and one of them could be a minivan, one could be a hatchback. There's a lot of form factors you could build on the same platform.
Yeah,
but I think
true.
also for delivery vans, a delivery van form factor would be helpful, because that is a big market. They would have presumably a better vehicle than the Ford or the Rivian, which only have like 150 miles of range. And they need that form factor for the boring tunnel that form factor would absolutely fit in the boring tunnel, especially if you purpose just built it to fit in the boring tunnel. And that would allow for vastly greater throughput. Right now, the way they're doing it works because they're at the convention center and a hotel with a second or third one coming any day. Eventually, it'll extend to the arena, to the football field. Getting game day traffic in and out is not going to work if you're putting 2, maybe 3 people in a car. You need to put 10, 20 people in each vehicle headed out to each of the destinations to make it work.
But these are the 5 factories that we spoke.
There's another one. Nevada deserves mention.
Nevada, but that's for the semi though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, and batteries. And batteries. So they've leveled off a space. They're looking to build the semi there. And then you've also got Panasonic is planning to expand their operations there. Those are all very exciting. And you're right, the semi, if we get to 100,000 units, that'll be fantastic. That would make them one of the largest semi manufacturers in the US. In terms of 5, 10, 20 million units, it's not going to make a big difference.
Yeah. But I think the semis are like what, 250,000 or 1/5 each. So
They've gotta be.
I guess in the financials, it'll make some sort of a dent in the financials for sure. And I think they are also pretty high margin, like I would say 25%, 20%
I
around
hope
there.
so. I hope so.
Me too. So that's interesting. Yeah, you're right. Nevada never gets any spotlight. Everyone thinks that there's only 5 gigafactories, and I guess Nevada it's a Giga Nevada, so that is also a gigafactory. And I think they're supposed to be done this year, right? In terms of like in construction, or I haven't looked into this.
I'd be surprised. It's not impossible. This factory will be easier to build than an automotive factory because automobile factories are the machine, where this would be a shell with a machine inside, which would make it a lot easier. You don't have to worry as much about where all your columns are to get it done because your volume isn't nearly as high. It could be done this year, but based on where we're at today, it'd be very tight.
One of the predictions that I had for 2024 is late this year. There's going to be an announcement that Tesla's going to make that, hey, semis are now for sale. Whoever wants to order one, they can, and delivery is within a couple months or something, a few months. I do expect something like that to come up because they did say they want 18 months of pilot production since they delivered 21 of them to Pepsi in December of 2022, and 18-month expires in June or May, one of those months.
That would be great. I don't think it's going to go to all customers because I think they want to limit who gets the first ones because there is no mega charger network yet, and I think they want to avoid the possibility of customers getting themselves into trouble without getting too far from wherever their juice is. If you just give it to customers like ports, they can manage their own power situation at either or both ends. That would avoid potential headaches and frustration, especially from independent operators who have very noble intentions but don't always have the best execution.
Wow, so you think they need a mega charger to charge that truck?
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Yes. The battery is, 7 times the size, 10 times the size of what they put in cars.
So I did not know that.
Oh yeah, it's got a different handle. The charger handle is different.
Yeah, see, this is why we have Brian here to educate us on these, because I had no clue that the battery was 7 times. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. So that's 6 gigafactories, I guess you could say, if you include the Giga Nevada. I'm curious to know, what other locations do you think Tesla will have gigafactories in? It looks like every other country is begging Elon to have a factory there of some sort, whether it's megapacks or just gigafactories. They're begging him. It's like, come on, man, please. So what do you think?
And all of them say the same thing. All of them say, I don't want just a battery factory. I don't want just I want everything. I want the whole package.
Yeah.
And not all of you are going to get it. So one benefit to Mexico, somebody said, oh, Mexico's not going to happen now. It's only going to be Texas. And I said, no, I've heard nothing that would indicate that. Mexico has free trade agreements with twice as many countries as the U.S. The U.S. has like 25. Mexico has, I think, 49, and they're about to expand to 65. They are part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. They're part of the Latin American trade zone. So having cars in Mexico means they can export them to a whole lot of places duty-free. So that's important. I have a spreadsheet that I made a couple of years ago now, analyzing every country by a variety of factors, including how many vehicle plants they already have, the competencies of the workers, the stability of the governments, the access to local minerals that are critical to building an EV, things like that. And the top of my list came in, I don't have it in front of me, but Canada and Japan came in very high on that list. We know there was talk of Canada, but it appears to have stalled. India
I'm not
was not
surprised.
super. Yeah. India was not
surprised.
super high on the list. It was maybe number 8, but I still feel like that's going to happen because the market is so large, and at 25,000 it would make a whole lot of sense to get there and have a custom form factor just for them. One person said, an Indian viewer said, if you just added 1 or 2 inches of ground clearance to deal with the inconsistencies in the roads once you get out of the city, it would be fine. It would be a good vehicle. And India's got a large workforce. Their middle class is exploding. They're trying to become what China was 20 years ago. And if they do, this is the time and the place. And the import taxes are so steep. They're 100%,
it's ridiculous.
100% on cheap cars and 180% or something like that on more expensive cars.
But why though? It's just so like I see these articles and I'm just looking at this and I'm just like, just say you're not allowed to come in.
Right. Well, no. If you want to pay me enough that I can go buy one myself, then you can bring one in. Yeah, it's a buy one get one free plan, right? Yeah. Well, we're not going to restrict your freedom, but boy, are we going to make it expensive.
That's ridiculous. I think there is some sort of a deal going on that, if you're gonna make an EV, or if Tesla wants to go to India and make or sell their EVs, they want the whole package themselves as well. They want the mega pack, the giga pack, the everything, and
the batteries, the entire supply chain. And Tesla has said, look, we will localize as quickly as we can, but we need assurances that we can bring parts in until we can localize the chain. When Shanghai first built the Model 3, it was something like 90% imported parts. And within 6 months, it was 10% imported parts.
No,
because while
crazy.
Tesla is famously the most American-made car, it is also the most Chinese-made car and likely the most German-made car. I haven't seen the numbers for Germany, but it is a made-in-China Model 3, uses just about everything made locally. I think the FSD chips come from Arizona or somewhere like that. And I don't know if the parts count goes by physical parts or by dollars or by pounds. I don't know. Yeah, they always localize. So I think writing that exception would be a smart move. It's not like they're going to be bringing in all the parts. They don't have the time to do that. They don't have the ships to do that. But if they need to early on just to get it ramped, then let them. But they're facing a lot of lobbying pressure from Tata Motors and the other domestic brands who really want to protect their business. And you can understand why.
Tatas, they don't, I mean, here in Kuwait, we have Tatas everywhere and they're buses. And they're just bad buses. They're pollution machines. And they're just not nice. They're not built nicely. It looks like they designed it in the 80s and they never changed it. They never changed the design. In India, they have a monopoly, and unfortunately, I think the government is in it as well. So
in not in my city, but in Wenatchee, which is a couple hours from here, they have BYD buses. They're made in Los Angeles, and they're very nice and modern and quiet and efficient. So
that's different. That's different.
I've been trying to get in to interview their PR director for months now, and they're just not responsive. Sounds like work.
Yeah, no, BYD is also here in Kuwait, which I was surprised. I'm just like, but they only sell their gas cars here. They don't have their EVs or anything, or even their do they have their hybrids here? I don't think they have their hybrids here either. It's just pure gas. They have all their gas cars. Well, gas is here is very cheap. Like if you want to go from empty to full, it's like $15. Like,
wow.
I mean, that's hard to argue.
Yeah, the value proposition is inverted, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. So it's like, do I really need an EV when gas price is $15 and, there's no infrastructure here and everything? The guys that I've interviewed here that does have an EV, they just charge at home. And the cost it's nothing. They don't pay for it. That's what it is. Like at home, like back in Toronto, when I had to charge the rental Model Y, it would probably charge me I rented out for a week. I think the bill came in afterwards, less than $10 or something like that. Here, it's not even that. It's like pennies.
Wow.
It's nothing. They use the gas they have here to power the grid. So it's like clean energy you're putting it in your Tesla. But yeah, that's just, it's very cheap here, the energy. So I don't know when Tesla will come to Kuwait. I hope they come soon, because my next vehicle is gonna be a Tesla. Once you drive one, it's hard to go back to any other car.
If you look at Toyota, they're in something like 140 markets or something outrageous like that.
170.
Where are they Teslas or Toyotas in every market?
Almost every market, yeah.
I guess
crazy.
that is crazy. And Tesla's in what, 40 markets?
40, if you want to include Hong Kong, 44.
That's a
not
lot
many
of
countries.
opportunity to grow. And
Oh,
they
yeah.
just went into Chile, which I think
And Qatar.
and Qatar. I think
Yeah.
the reason for Chile is because that's where the lithium comes from, and maybe
Yes.
that's a reason. Maybe there's a tax advantage to putting them between, crossing the paths like that. I don't know, but there is reason for them to be in Chile. So it'd be there's a lot of countries left, a lot of lands left to conquer. And as the price comes down, they all start to make sense.
Yeah, absolutely true. I remember when I went to Dubai, and I really do think Dubai would be a place where Tesla would, even though, I mean, the resources aren't there, but it would be such a very smart place for Tesla to make a Gigafactory there. You're in the center of like the whole Asian market, like in Middle East and Asian and African market. But the problem is they don't have the resources there to do any of the vertical integrated stuff. Boo-hoo.
Right.
But it's a very business friendly place for anyone to do business. Like here in Kuwait, if you want to do business here, 51% of the business ownership has to be a local. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a big chain like Burger King, or if you're McDonald's, or if you're Carrefour, which is a massive company, supermarket, anyone or anything or anybody or anyone, you have to have local must have 51%, and then you get 49%. In Dubai, even in Qatar, you don't even have that anymore. The land is yours for 99 years. You own the business, you own everything, and there's none of this bribery things that we have here in Kuwait, where you gotta pay the guy under the table to get your stuff done. None of the stuff is in those countries.
So I'll tell you, the problem with UAE is they don't have any history of building cars, and they don't have any domestic parts supply. Well, the history of building cars is important because you need local engineers who understand the job. And that's why, like, looking at Brazil, they've got a lot of domestic auto manufacturing. India's got a ton of domestic auto manufacturing. And that's why somebody early on said they should have built the Giga Berlin, should have been Giga Poland. But Poland doesn't have the same experience building cars, and it was worth it to pay the extra wages when you consider all of the engineering experience that you're able to get on board in a country like Germany, where they've got a legacy. I mean, Germany's not that big of a country, and they've got many world-class automotive brands, which is pretty unusual.
Brian, you are very great and on point with your production numbers and your delivery numbers every single quarter. 90% of the time, you're always on point. You're always off by like the 2 digits, not like 3 digits, 2 digits, which always blows my mind all the time. How, I don't know, well, you're very knowledgeable in this space. So what do you think Q1 of 2024 production numbers are going to be?
Ooh, cute.
And delivery numbers?
I haven't crunched the numbers yet. Yeah, I haven't looked at it. So the thing with the production is there are a number of people who are very famous for predicting their numbers, and they're not always the best numbers. And some of them like to brag about how good their numbers are, even when their numbers are bad. And I've seen people say, this is my range for the year. And even though they were outside that window, say, hey, I missed by 200 cars. Right. No, you missed because you posted a range and you were outside. That's not how it works. And I've seen other people who get closer than me, and then I say to them, you should post your methodology next time. And they say, oh, I don't have one. I just freeball it.
Just take a guess.
Hope I get close. The more impressive thing is that I'm often the outlier, and sometimes I'm still right. There was one quarter, it was a couple years ago now, where I was the outlier, and I made a video saying, I'm going to explain this, and I'm going to tell you I'm uncomfortable being the outlier, but I am. And it was before we were getting weekly numbers out of Shanghai, and we were only getting monthly numbers out of Shanghai. And everybody was saying that the third month in Shanghai, at the time we only had 2 factories, was going to be a dog, that there was evidence that the cars were just not coming out. And I went back and counted the cooling towers on the roof in every single video for the month, and then compared it to the previous quarter's month when the weather was the same. So it was weather adjusted, and how many of the cooling towers are spinning at any given video? And the answer was there are substantially more spinning in the third month of this quarter than the third month of last quarter. So based on that, I jacked my number up and I got to within 91 cars.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and
Crazy.
I'm not saying Tesla watches my videos, but less than a week later, they went back out to Texas, and the cooling towers that they were putting up on top of the 4680 factory, they moved them, they cut holes in the ceiling, and they put them inside instead, so they cannot be seen from the air. Because if I could count how many cooling towers are spinning at the battery factory, I could tell you with a high degree of certainty what Cybertruck production is, but I can't see that.
Wow. No, that's insane. The level of details. That's crazy. Do you think Tesla's going to hit 20 million vehicles by 2030?
No, I think the odds are 10%-ish. I think the odds are very low, but the odds are not zero because they have a path to do it. They have a path. They have a plan. The odds for Toyota and Ford and VW, their odds are zero. They have no path. Their best goal is to get to 10 million-ish. 10 million-ish, maybe a little higher. They could increase efficiencies by 2-3% here and there, but they don't have any gigafactories coming online, and they take ages to build. Ford's been working on a rebuild of their Rouge plant in Detroit, in Dearborn, for ages. Dearborn, Detroit, I'm not, wherever it is, for ages, and it's still half done. There is nobody else who could do it. Can Tesla do it? Well, you've already seen we've got, 4 or 5 million of capacity today, just from what we know we have. Can they get another 15 million? Well, can the compact crank out 2 to 4 million? Can it crank out 4 million? If it's twice the size of the existing factory and twice as productive per square foot, that's a 4 million car factory. Now you only need 3 of them, and we've got plans already for 2. We'd only need 1 more, and that would be in China. So is it possible? Yes, but the odds are long.
Okay, so by any chance, do you have a bear base and bull case? What your numbers could be?
I do, but I don't have it in front of me, and that's probably something I would only post on Patreon.
Okay, there we go. And I think you post all the things, all the information and details in Patreon, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
And I put them out on Twitter for the premium subscribers and on YouTube for members.
Nice. So if y'all are interested to see some juicy, detailed numbers, Patreon for Brian FutureAZA and or X for subscription. So that's maybe take a look at that because your numbers are precise, man. That's ridiculous.
They're pretty good.
They're really good.
A couple times.
Yeah. So what do you think 2024 will be? Like what's the production numbers for 2024?
So I'm not seeing much past what everyone is seeing, 2.1, 2.2. We'll have a much better picture once we see the Q1 numbers. But unless the interest rates come down sooner than in Q2 instead of 3 or 4, or never, I don't see the numbers getting much above 2.2. Cybertruck could surprise to the upside, but even that, I'm expecting 89,000 this year. And there are plenty of people who think it'll be higher. But even if it went significantly higher, it's not a huge number difference on a bottom line of 2.2 million.
Wow. To a lot of, I guess you could say analysts who aren't analysts are saying that they can do like below 2 million in deliveries is what they're saying. Oh no, it's production, below 2 million. And I'm just like, I think they're taking what Tesla said in Q1 or Q4 of 2023 too literate. Yeah, they're taking it too heavily. And that's not a bad thing. I prefer them to have a lower number and then it'll surprise us with a higher number. I much prefer that. But
and the analyst Wall Street does too. And if you were to graph their growth over the years, even a 10 or 20 or 30% increase would look pretty flat compared to what we've seen in the past. So I don't see under 2 million as being a reasonable possibility.
Yeah.
That seems pretty unlikely. And remember how shortly ago it was, how recently we were excited to see 500,000 for a whole year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And now we're like, boy, can I get more than that this quarter?
Yeah, no, I think Q2 is when they're going to deliver more than 500,000. I think Q1 is going to be on par with Q4 in deliveries, as it is with almost every single Q1. But I think Q2 is going to be very interesting to see. If interest rates do go down, this 2.2, do you think this will increase to 2.3?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Nice.
A cut in interest rate, because it's just expanded affordability, and then you get the double whammy of now your cost of goods has dropped as well. You've got more efficiencies because a lot of your overhead is fixed. The property taxes are fixed. The marginal cost to increase production is a lot lower than the cost of making the first batch. So that would have a bigger impact.
Nice. Yeah, I'm betting on that, to be honest. Yeah. So that would mean, okay, cool. So the 2.2 is excluding the interest rate cuts. So then,
Yes.
I mean, that'd be very nice to see how much of a interest rate cuts we will get this year. I'm betting on second half of this year, we should see something. Whether it's a 0.25 or 0.5, we have to see something. I know in Canada right now, things are bad in Canada. I was there this summer, and it's just ridiculous. I don't know how people are living. It's just too expensive. It's ridiculous. US is much better, but Canada is just...
The housing in every major city in Canada is
it's ridiculous.
Hong Kong prices.
Yeah, dude, I don't know how I'm going to get it. I have no idea how I'm going to afford a house, to be honest with you. I have no idea how I'm going to afford a house. I may have to move to the US. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous up there. I don't know. But I do think they're going to do an interest rate cut sooner than everyone thinks. I think maybe it has to be in May or they're thinking April. It has to be some sort of a cut. I think we're literally in a recession right now in Canada. We're 1 quarter away from a recession.
I don't follow that side of it as much. So what I do instead is follow you, because you've got your finger on the pulse for those
true.
metrics. Well, it's easier to find someone you trust and follow them rather than trying to discover how all this stuff works on your own and then follow it.
That's true. That's very true. My next question here is that how fast do you think they will ramp the compact car?
Sure.
What do you think about that? You have something? Let's go for it.
I've got an answer.
Let's go. I'm very excited about this.
So the Model 3 was very difficult to ramp. When they ramped it the second time in Shanghai, it was very quick to ramp. They already knew how to do it. The Model Y ramp in Fremont, remarkably quick. And then the other Model Y ramps, fine. Shanghai went very quick. Berlin went fine. Texas went fine. Those looked slower because they were facing demand shortages, unlike all the previous ramps where there was unlimited sky-high demand. Years of backlog if you weren't careful. The Cybertruck, we're watching it ramp pretty quickly, and it's got a whole bunch of new tech. I expect the compact will be that most of the ramp issues will be addressed in the Texas line. So the Texas line may ramp slowly, but they'll get it dialed in so that when they replicate it into Mexico or China or Berlin or wherever they decide to go, it will ramp very quickly in those places. So I think Texas production will be slow-ish. Texas is also much smaller than the intended full-scale factories, but that once they go to these other locations, it'll be China quick.
And the way they're going to be doing it is when they mentioned it in, I think it was Investor Day, how they're going to be building it in a whole different way. And as Elon says, it's going to be revolutionary in the car. So would it be crazy to say that the very first year that they manufacture this vehicle, they can make at least 100,000 in production in the first year?
Not crazy at all. That's not, I mean, the first full year, I mean, yes, not crazy at all.
So you're thinking more, like 200,000-300,000.
Well, I don't know the number over 100, but 100, I mean, that's, 2,000 a week. They wouldn't start there, but they would finish, if they start at 0 and finish at 4,000 a week, that's 100,000. That's if a smooth ramp is what you're getting, then that's 100,000. So that's
going to be exciting.
And that is, again, just from Texas, which would be the smallest of the compact factories.
No, that's going to be exciting. I do expect 2024, maybe only 300,000 or 400,000 units will be added on, 2.2 million. 2025, maybe closer to 2.5, 2.6. But then in 2026 and onwards, when we have this thing ramping up, I see a massive spike in just production and just a big jump from that year onwards. It's going to be insane.
That's what I'm looking at too. Is a lot of people say, well, they're out of products, they're out of ideas. No, they're in the phase where they're building for the next thing, which is the compact. And while compacts are not super popular in the US, globally, they're very popular. They're like the most popular cars worldwide. The most popular form factor is compact because they are the most affordable, the easiest to park, there's a lot of benefits, and not everyone needs a ton of cargo and hauling space. In the US, the reason you don't see a lot of compacts is because US automakers have kind of stopped building. And even when they were building them, they made them to not be appealing. They wanted you to step up to the next best thing. And I think Tesla would take the opposite approach. They'd go, like when Kia came out with their coupe, the little Veloster. They made it fun. They made it exciting. They made it compelling, and it sold. The U.S. big automakers don't like doing that. That's fine. Don't do it. No one's going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. But Tesla will make a compelling car. And electric cars should be cheaper than gas cars. They should be simpler. And as the technology continues to improve, we are seeing that happening. And then throw on top of that the credit you get for building the battery pack on the back end, and then the additional credit on the buyer side. You could be looking at a $10,000 discount.
That's crazy.
Price.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. I think it was if the car is going to come out 25,000 and there's a 7,500 credit on that, that's and if you got the state that has 4,000 on top of that as incentive, geez, why would you pick something else? Yeah.
And the 25,000 looks a lot more possible when you've got domestic batteries that, if it's a 50 kilowatt hour pack, paid you $2,500 on the back end.
Yeah. And what's crazy about this is that a lot of short-term investors, they don't see this. They just panic and they just go look on what the stock is now. They look at, oh, there's no more demand. My goodness, they just have to look another 2 years and things are going to change very fast. I'm very excited.
When I bought my Tesla shares in May of 2019 for 188, I was so excited. I told a buddy of mine, and he said I wouldn't touch that stock with a 10-foot pole. And as it turns out, he can't afford a 10-foot pole. So that's I followed the company closely enough to see something he couldn't, and I still see that today. And you know what? After I bought it, it dipped. There were times when it dipped. And I was like, oh, did I make a mistake? But I'm not here for the 1 week. I saw people who said to me when it hit 400, oh, I bet you wish you sold then, don't you? I said, no, because if I was the kind of person who would have sold at 400, I'm also the kind of person who would have sold at 200. Ha-ha, I made $12. Look at me. I'm not a trader. I'm an investor.
Exactly. And I think everyone should understand that I post the stock price every day on my X because it's fun. I don't get FOMO or anything. That I invest regularly into Tesla. 99% of my whole entire portfolio is Tesla, and so I like to track it. It's an awesome company. I just love tracking this company, and I do think it's the best risk-adjusted company stock that you can invest in today. Not financial advice, but I do post it every day, and there's a lot of commenting that go like, ha ha ha, sell this and buy NVIDIA. I'm like, so you want me to sell this on the low and buy NVIDIA on the high?
Yeah, that's a bold strategy.
Yeah. and I'm just like, okay, buddy.
Yeah, the high frequency traders make a mint off those guys.
They do.
But
they do.
And you're trying to predict the future. I can't predict the market, but when I look at the fundamentals of a company, because when I invested in Tesla, and when I say I bought it at 188, I mean pre-split, 15 X shares ago. Yeah. So it was like $13-14.
Yeah.
I was buying I looked at the not yet finished factory in Shanghai. I ignored the Cybertruck. I ignored autonomy and just said, just based on the strength of Fremont and Shanghai, I believe my investment will outperform the market over a 10-year horizon. That was my thesis. All those other things are just icing on the cake. And it turns out there's some icing on that cake. So
a lot of it too.
It's worked out pretty okay for my retirement.
No, that's good. No, that's nice. And you know what? I do welcome these low prices still. I'm still accumulating. Anything below 200, hand over fist. There's no questions asked. By any chance, do you have any stock price predictions? Because I know you're more into the production and stuff, and in the factories and the fundamentals.
Nope.
But how about the stock? You don't have any of that, no?
Nope. Up and to the right. That's how it goes.
Up and to the right. That's it. Okay. So the last question that I have here for you, Brian, is what's the biggest part of Tesla that excites you, that makes you go like, you know what? This thing is gonna be number one day. This thing is going to change the world forever. Very excited for it. What is that one thing?
Okay, so it's not the bot, it's not the semi, it's not the autonomy. It is the people. It is the actual people who work there, because I've met a number of them and I've sat in on some of their meetings, unbeknownst to them, and I've gotten to see how they work. They are excited, they are passionate, they believe, rightly so, that they are at a company where they can do their best and see it become something. When I was in my 20s, my gosh, what I would have done to get a job like that, where you can go to your boss and say, I got a crazy idea, and the boss say, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Maybe it's the right idea. And it allows people, and this is also true at SpaceX from what I've seen. There was a meeting where they were talking about the dust problem at Giga Texas and how they were literally inventing a in-system filtration for a little floor cleaning Zamboni kind of deal, a little floor spongy thing that would drive itself around the factory, clean the water, filter the water, reuse the water so that it could just keep going without having to come back to a station every 20 minutes, half mile away. And they were excited about that. And it's everything they do that is like that. It is the replacing braided cables with steel lines that work better. It's all of it. And so it is the people, because I don't know what the next project is. I know there is a next project, and I know these people are working on it, and that's what excites me.
That was very deep. I think the number one and number two engineers best pick, or where they want to work. I think number one was SpaceX, number two was Tesla.
Yeah, in some years they flip, but yeah, those are the two places people want to be because they're doing it. They're doing all the things that everybody says they want to do.
And it shows you the power of innovation in that company when you have almost all the engineers who pick these two companies. For crying out loud, you're using reusable rockets to land itself. Incredible. Like, that's just insane. I mean, I want to be invested in a company that has that type of leadership, and that leadership is Elon Musk, and that company is Tesla. The people is also, and they're growing every day. So that's good. No, that was nice. That was really nice. Thank you, Brian, for that. That was actually really nice.
You bet.
So guys, comment down below. What excites you about Tesla? Is it the people, as Brian said? Is it the next projects that they're doing? Is it the cars? Is it the bot? Is it the AI? Is it the mining? Is it the insurance? Is it the energy? Oh my goodness, I could keep going on and on. Comment down below. What do you guys what excites you the most? And I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Brian for coming on here. It's been over an hour now, so thank you so much for coming. This is a long time due for you to come on the channel, and I'm glad that you're here and we did it. And I hope to see you again, Brian, because this was a lot of information.
You asked some great questions too. Appreciate that.
Thank you, everyone. Go ahead, subscribe to FutureAZA now, formerly now as My Tesla Weekend. And subscribe to his channel. He has a lot of good stuff. And I shall see you guys in the next, or we shall see you guys maybe in the next video. See ya.